Hi guys, welcome to Codemanga Games channel, and today we're gonna talk about how to learn things fast. And I have quite of my own way of doing this that I actually follow in my life, and I thought that it would be pretty nice to share it with you. So this video is dedicated to this particular topic of how to learn things fast. And the very basic principle I'm about to follow while facing a need to learn something really fast is actually the divide and conquer principle. Well, you might have argued that everybody does that, and it's not really that kind of something new to be considered here. But I'd like to mention that there's a little difference that people usually consider to think about this divide and conquer principle, and actually I'd like to say how I particularly use it in order to learn things really fast. And just to give you an example, well, in order to not to talk about all of this theoretical parts, but just to show this like in an examples. Well, so yes, in general, I'm talking about the fast learning of things just in the relation to the programming. Like if you need to learn some new programming language, or maybe like a new framework or some particular tasks or issue solution or something like that. Well, that's like kind of the most like important part basically of this video to talk about. But before I was starting to talk about how to do this in programming, I'd like to tell you a little story about my kind of early days. Yeah, when I was for about 10 or maybe even 15 years younger compared to now. So I was for about 15 or 16 years old, just almost graduated from the high school at that time, and I started to practice some Chinese martial art called Wushu, and that's actually was really quite exciting. And later on, in a couple of years, I've switched from the sport part of this kind of art to the traditional one. And the main difference between the sports and the traditional practice in Wushu is actually the kind of you have a different you are emphasizing different stuff there. So in case when in sports, you're just emphasizing the competition parts. You try to compete others, trying to beat others, something like that. And well, that kind of formulates some sort of a mindset in your head. And I don't really say that that is that bad, but it's not kind of the most natural way of doing things. So to my personal opinion, at least, that's like so. And in the traditional Chinese martial arts, the main point is actually to discover your inner nature and like to know who you are. And like the Chinese ancient sages said, if you know yourself and you know your opponent on 100%, then you would definitely win all of the 100 battles if you have that. So if you have 100 battles, you will win each particular one, so you won't ever lose any, in the case if you know yourself and your opponent absolutely clearly. So that's kind of the key point in that old ancient Chinese wisdom. And so basically exactly the martial arts are basically the exact place where I first have faced the need of using this divide and conquer principle. And maybe you know, well, maybe not. If you don't, I'll tell you this just right now, that the most styles in traditional Chinese Wushu, they consist of kind of in Chinese it's named Tao Lu, and Tao Lu means just a collection of roots. So you have some routines and they are just gathered into one collection. So it's some sort of like a database of the movements basically. And all of this database is observed to be like a one single style. And when I was younger, I was making more like things known as external arts, and they can be described as you have a really low stances, so you almost go to the ground, or you also have to jump very high, or kicks with your legs, and really wide arm movements like that. So that's really quite beautiful to watch this, what we see in some Jackie Chan's movies or like that. Well, when I was a kid, that was really exciting. But then the time flow, and as it usually happens to those who practice this stuff, well, most people kind of switch to the thing that is called internal or inner martial arts, and one of the most probably well known of those is actually Tai Chi. And basically in my RESTful web app tutorial, I was talking about when I was talking about making the to-do list, I remember that I was talking about something that you have to do some Tai Chi in the morning, something like that, and I said something like you have to try it, or something like that. Yeah. Okay. So, and I thought it's just why not to talk about this. And now it's actually about the fast learning. And when there is a group of students, the teacher is actually showing the forms. And just to make it a bit clear of what is the form mean in the world of Chinese martial arts, well, that's kind of a collection of movements. And the number of movements defines the name of the form. Say you can have 24 movements Tai Chi form. And you can even Google this, and YouTube would give you tons of materials to this topic. And so that's the way how you can actually count the movements. So like each movement is like an object in the database, like an entry, like one entry each movement. And also there is all the entire complex of this is just like it's like a collection. Yeah, it's just a collection of movements like that. And when the students actually stands behind the teacher and he shows you the stuff, and you just repeat this like a monkeys, and that's actually where the Code Monkey Kin's channel name has come from, by the way. So well, the Monkey Kin is a man in the old Chinese literature. Well, it's Journey to the West, if you have ever heard about this. And there is such a character called Monkey King, and he was very strong. He was flying on the clouds, and he has kind of weapon made of steel, and it was changing its size, and he could pick it in his ear, and he made many magical tricks. So it was just kind of guys really strong and really cool. And another term is actually like a Code Monkey, and when I thought just why not to put it all in one, like Code Monkey King. Yeah, that's how actually the name of this channel was born, by the way. Okay, so why did I actually start talking about Code Monkey King? Or oh yeah, so when the teacher stands basically in front of the group of the students just like monkeys, yeah, they just copying the movements, and that's actually how I was learning programming in my early days. Like when you see somebody's code and then you just simply gotta copy this, like this was a Tai Chi movement. Yeah, that's how Code Monkey King actually learns how to code, and I don't really hesitate to do it even now. Well, it's quite fun. And basically most of people would probably consider this to be a weird disaster. Well, but I don't, for this is basically the fastest method of learning things. Yeah, just being a monkey. Yeah, so there are pros and cons, definitely. So the benefit is you're actually doing really fast, but the downside of this is you're not really having that much of understanding of what you're doing particularly. But like I believe that understanding will come much later, so you first have to like kind of start learn by doing, and later on you would have an understanding of what actually you're doing. So in case if you just repeat this 1,000 of times, like the movements in Tai Chi or in martial arts in general, like Morihei Shiba, the founder of Aikido, he said like you have to perform the sword moves thousand times, and then you would definitely be doing this the right way. So would have been an expert in making this one little sword movement, yeah, like just like this, okay, just from top to bottom like that. I was doing Aikido for some period of my time of my life, and I basically quite familiar with it, and I've tested this on my own, and I really know what am I talking about here. So, well, you can trust me in this at this particular point at least. Okay, so and when the teacher is actually starting to making, well, say the Tai Chi form, or say this is the 24 movements, yeah, and the students are really kind of trying to repeat this just as monkeys, yeah, and they actually do, and they kind of run into the thing that is known like a Tai Chi flow. Well, and that's the flow. Well, the flow is actually all about the same. It doesn't matter if you write a code and you feel that flow, if you just move around somewhere in the natural place, like in the wood or in the forest, like when the river is near or something, or if you're observing the ocean, something like that. It's quite natural, and everything natural has its kind of flow, and it makes you calm. It makes you understand the flow of things, and it makes you basically happy. It makes you a human being, and that's really nice. Well, so that's about the flow. So you kind of started feeling that flow, and that's really nice. And the deeper you feel that flow, the deeper understanding you achieve of what you are actually doing. And basically the entire process of learning in this particular case, when we're talking about learning some Chinese martial arts, it basically consists of two parts. So the first part is actually how to learn the forms, just the movements. I mean, the right hand is moving over here, and the left hand is moving over there. I'm sorry, the camera range doesn't really allow me to show you this in greater details, but just you put the left leg forwards, then the right leg like uprises, and then makes a kick, and then goes back, and something like that. So the only thing you have to care about is just the coordination, basically. So the correct, the right leg, the right kind of arm or hand, etc. So just to make things keep them in order, basically, like the teacher is doing. That's your purpose. And in the relation to coding, that might be observed as a basic structure of the application. Like if you say we take the web program, it's absolutely the same. You have like let's say what I'm actually doing now is just Node.js, an Express framework and a Mongo database. So, well, the Express framework has roots. Yeah, so roots has to be encapsulated, and if you're dealing with a database, you have to make some sort of a handler that some sort of API that makes the queries to the database in order to get some information to retrieve it out of that, and that's actually already kind of structure. And this structure is exactly the same like the structure in the Tai Chi movements, at least for me personally. So the most important thing here is actually to keep the structure. So when you see somebody is doing great job, he's doing fine, or the master is doing really excellent taolu like that, well, in that case, you actually like kind of say, okay, so I believe this guy, I trust him with all of my heart, basically, and I would just take his structure. I kind of put it on myself, like as it were the cloth is, yeah, like that. So, and when you just trying to feel that cloth, it's like you've clothed this cloth is on, you're wearing this, and you're starting to like kind of feel how it works from within, and that's basically the key point, or start understanding the things deeper. Well, it is the Chinese works. Chinese learns in this particular way, as well as I do, and that's actually, to my opinion, that's the fastest way of learning things. Well, definitely, it's not really that convenient for everybody, and well, at least in my country, when I was talking about to my friends or somebody I know about this principle, they say like, "Man, you're crazy. Just shut up. Don't tell us this shit. This is just a weird disaster. We don't really want to listen to this." And I just like, I won't really have a problem telling them about this, for they just kind of don't understand the benefits of this. So they just can't take it. That's the reason they basically don't really like it. Okay, well, so that's basically it. And now when we're talking about learning the first part, the forms, well, when we're talking about the going deeper, well, basically when you learn the forms, you have to just do them thousands of times, and that's it. That's very simple. You're doing this thousands of time, doing this consistently. That's the most important thing. You don't give up. You don't make breaks. You just do it until it's kind of you understand things. You just go into the next level upwards, and that's how it works. So as far as you have learned the form, that starts to be quite pretty easy, basically. Well, so the most ever hard thing is actually to learn the form, and here is this kind of the main message I'm about to bring in this particular video. So in order to learn the form, you have to use the divide and conquer principle. For the entire complex in Chinese martial arts, at least, it consists of the basic movements, and these basic movements might be observed as a bricks that the wall consists of, and the house consists of the walls. Well, so like when you can understand the very basic elements of the entire system you're building or learning, or if this is a set of exercises, doesn't matter how complex it is, just doesn't matter really. So the first thing you have to actually know is the very basics of the stuff you're learning now, and the definition of those basics in each particular kind of profession like that, it's probably the most important thing. So you really have to know what are the very basics of the current particular stuff I'm now learning. So, well, in case of say Taiji, well, it consists basically of two parts. The first and the most important one is the steps. So Taiji has the kind of list of available steps. So how to put your leg, how to shift the weight between your legs, stuff like that, how to do this in a correct way, what you have to feel, how you work with the sender, and so on. And the other thing is actually the hand movements. And the hand movements are also could be classified into several basic kind of powers, maybe it's like that. So these are known as Pan, Lu, Ji, An, Cai, Li, Zhou, Kao, like that. Yes, my Chinese is not that great, unfortunately. Well, but at least just to name those, forces or powers. I'm not sure how exactly to call them. And basically, these forces are to push, pull, and well, basically it's actually only to push and to pull. So the force that is going out from you, from the inside to the outside, and another form is going from the outside to the inside, and all the others. So these are the two basics. All the others, all the 8 kind of forces. So, well, they consist of this little two. So this really looks like a system for numbers, like the binary, and then you have octal system, and then the hexadecimal and things like that. So, well, everything starts with the 0 and 1. And when you have the 0 and you have this 1, you can construct basically any given number you need, any real number at least. Well, and that's actually what is so-called Taoist philosophy tells us about the yin and yang. So like the 10,000 of things actually consists of yin and yang, and it's just the matter of particular order of how you organize your yin and yang elements in the entire system. So that's basically it. So when I'm talking about learning things fast, the first thing is to divide and conquer. So divide means you have to know where is your yin and where is your yang. So where you pull and where you push. Well, if you talk about the programming, where you set and where you get. So that's where the encapsulation basically comes. So something like that. So you have to be absolutely clear that this is the function call, this is the variable, and this is kind of some hook to the database or something like that. It doesn't matter. If you deal with a chess program, you have to understand that how to divide the chess program. Say, yeah, there is the board representation, the move generator, the search function, the evaluation function. So these are the 4 major parts. So starting with this, you can divide and conquer even more. So if you say about the board representation. So there is the mailbox, which uses an array to represent the board, and there is also a system called a bit board, so when every single piece is represented as an unsigned 64 number, if we talk in the terms of C. And basically all the zeros represent the empty squares, while the bit that has been set actually represents the piece on the board. So in that case we would have the number of bit boards of how many pieces are there on the board. So like one bit board for white knights, one bit board for white pawns, one for white rooks, one for white bishops, and so on, so on. Absolutely the same for black. So that's how it works in practice. Like chess programming, while it's too much, I don't understand what is that. I have no idea. But when you start to divide and conquer, the things are really getting more and more easier, right? And when, like you say, you've decided, okay, I'm supposed to use some mailbox system to represent the board. So what are available there? You have 8 to 8 board, you have so-called hexadecimal 88, that's not the same as 8 to 8, by the way, and you have the 10 to 12 mailbox, another option to define the off-board squares, basically, for the tricky knight moves like that. And once you have chosen the particular board representation, you're actually already able to write a decent move generator that is using this particular board representation. For the move generator basically actually stands on the board representation. So no board representation, no move generations. No move generations, no search functions. But there won't be any move list. The move generator has to produce a move list, while the search has to deal with that move list, and the evaluation function has to evaluate each particular move in the position. So basically that's the list of the position. So that's, I've just shown you guys how to divide and conquer in the relation to chess programming. Well, and if you really understand this very key basic part, in this case you would be learning extremely fast. And basically doesn't really much matter of what particularly are you doing. I mean, for me, it's not much difference of if I'm doing my Taiji routines in the morning, or if I'm learning some web program, you know, if I'm doing console games, or if I'm kind of, I don't know, everything is absolutely the same. So you have to have these basics. You divide and conquer things. You see those key points, and that's kind of starts to become the basis for you to explore the particular direction you're about to follow in your profession, your hobby, doesn't matter really. So that's actually what I was going to tell you in this video, and I hope this kind of makes some sense for you. So everything is basically the same, and the divide and conquer principle lets us define the major parts of any process. And as far as you get all of the elements you're supposed to learn, if you clearly define them, then the entire like Taolu in Taiji, like the collection in a particular order, is just a couple of minutes to learn. Yeah, so you start learning this very fast. If you know the bricks, how to deal with a single brick, you know how to deal with the entire wall, and you know how to deal with the entire house, and this house might have as many stages as needed. It doesn't really matter. So that's the key principle, and that's really interesting, and it gives you some sort of an inner transformation. You're starting to understand the floor of things, and you're starting to get really deep into them. Okay guys, I think this is it for this video, and I hope you have enjoyed this. And if you want to hear more, then please press the subscribe button, and I'll talk to you next time. Take care.